Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks. On Wednesday, the 20th day of September, year of our Lord 2017, welcome to the John Moore Show. Proper tip of the day, I want to encourage all of you to check your ammunition supply. Is it properly stored? Do you have enough? Two questions. Properly stored means a cool, dry place. Humidity and heat are the two enemies of any ammunition any of the time. And if you want the best place I've found to purchase ammunition online, or pretty much anywhere, is Wiki Arms. That's Whiskey India Kilo India, wikiarms.com. They also, I just found out this morning, have different firearms forums, including my favorite firearm, the Rifleman's Rifle, the M14. A lot of great information there. The forums are a lot of fun, and you can learn a lot at those forums at wikiarms.com. We have patient waiting in green room, my friend, Professor James McCanney. Professor McCanney is a credentialed astrophysicist. He has taught astrophysics at the university level. He's taught mathematics at the university level. He's an amateur archaeologist, prolific author, having written 10 books, and I'm sure more to come, and weekly radio talk show host. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, John. How are you doing today?
Really good. Sir, we probably should take no more than 5 minutes to dispel the out-of-control fear people have about this coming Saturday, September 23rd. Let's get that out of the way before we move on.
Yeah, it's September 23rd. Like you say, it's the day before September 24th.
And like you say, the day after September 22nd.
Right, and it's a day when you might go shopping or whatever. If something is going to happen, then it's something planned. And I've heard, planetary alignments. No, there's nothing going on.
Right.
So anyway, that's...
Well, Jim, I'm getting emails and phone calls, people ready to throw the family in the minivan and head off to the national forest. It's just another day. That's all it is. End of story, correct?
Yeah. Well, if people want to do that, that'd be a great weekend to go camping, I guess, if they want to go camping. But just because they want to go camping, not because... Right. But, it's strange that this was been going on for a long time. I mean, months, this particular one. And possibly the same people or other people will fall victim to other ones.
Right. Well, these things, they take on a life of their own. Somebody comes up with what they think is a clever premise. They have access to sophisticated video production facilities, and they put something together, and it gets repeated and copied and repeated and copied, building hysteria to the point where people are really genuinely in fear, and when in fact there's nothing to be fearful of, is there, sir?
No, there's. In terms of my very first paidcast lecture was on how to tell if something like this is real or not. And one of the first things is the source. Is the source legitimate? Can you identify who it is? And I just received another thing. I didn't even look at it, but there's a picture that came allegedly from military sources of some kind of planetary object. And I say, no. A picture, it doesn't, first of all, it's just ridiculous. It's on and on and on. It's the same thing. So if something's going to happen this Saturday, it might happen because somebody got the idea that maybe they should do something.
Right.
Because everybody's expecting something.
A man-made.
Yeah, a man-made event.
Right. Well, I think we've hopefully dispelled that because we have a lot of people very concerned. Let's move on from there. We've got a couple things.
The only problem is, John, let me just repeat.
Go ahead.
Anytime you say anything, it falls danger to people taking that, cutting it, editing it. And, I mean, even when we were talking about the price of blue cheese, they could take that and cut it and edit it and try and twist it into something else. So
right, absolutely.
Just on the same note, there are many pages on the internet now regarding weather modification, and that are put there by the CIA. Some call it electric universe weather, or things copying my work, or like this Weather 101 or whatever it is. And there's even takeoffs on that, where they claim that the steam from nuclear reactors causes hurricanes. Totally absurd. But this is all over the internet now. So, of course, what they do is they take a topic, they flood it with misinformation so that anything real gets buried in there. And then they use emailing and flooding emails to try and promote this garbage. So anyway,
right.
A lot of people have sent me things. There's a link to something, but embedded in that is a link to something else. And so there's a lot of work being done by, literally it starts with the CIA, who wants just total disinformation. If there's a topic, they want to control the narrative.
Exactly. Well, Jim, we got several things in the news. First of all, that earthquake south of Mexico City that I believe is 70 miles south, but was powerful enough to cause some loss of life and damage in Mexico City itself. And also the Hurricane Maria, which is smacking Puerto Rico pretty hard as we speak.
Yeah, Maria, I just looked, is just arriving in Puerto Rico. But the earthquake, I saw the videos, and it was major destruction in Mexico City. And buildings falling down, sides of buildings, so there's a tremendous amount of destruction. And, of course, in a place like that, the standards, especially for a lot of the older buildings, they just didn't have the standards. Even after the earthquake, it seems like yesterday, but it was 32 years ago, on the same day. Now, that looks a bit suspicious.
Yes, it does.
But the earthquakes that occurred about a week ago came on the heels of Mexico offering help to Texas after the flooding of Houston. And on the heels of Mexico saying, if we can help, we will. That's when they had the 3 earthquakes out in the sea off of Chiapas, down in the southwest. And now this one is epicenter. 70 miles is nothing for an earthquake. And so Mexico City really took a jolt. And a lot of times, if you're not right on the epicenter, it's worse.
Really?
Because the epicenter, you get one form of wave, whereas beyond you can get a couple forms.
Oh, okay.
Earthquakes are vertical, they're horizontal, they're different types. But if you're over the epicenter, you only get one. But anyway, that's so close for a 7 earthquake that it really shook Mexico City. So they're saying 28 million people affected. Because Mexico City is at least 20 million people now, probably more.
Right. Well, I know Mexico City was the largest city on the planet. Is it still? Do you know?
Well, it's neck and neck with Tokyo. It has been since. Okay. When I lived there, it had a population of 10 million, and it doubled in 10 years.
Really?
So, yeah, it doubled in that decade. So, and that's due to just population growth. And that's what people don't understand. Nobody talks about the immigration problem with Mexico here, is they're having lots of babies. You cannot see a Mexican woman 30-year-old without 5 kids and
really?
Pregnant. Yeah, I mean, it's just the population explosion in this country due to Mexicans, the same way with Somalians. All they do is have babies, and that's wonderful. But the population growth from those centers, especially Mexicans, is going to greatly affect, and the population estimates are way off. There's at least 40 million illegal alien Mexicans in the country right now. And then you take half of those and you multiply that by 5 on average, and that's about correct. Then you're dealing with 200 million people in 10 years. And they're not visible because they're all under age 5 or 10. They're not visible.
Right.
And
right.
So we have an invisible population of potentially 10 to between 100, well, probably minimum 100 million people in this country.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Whew. Well, where do you want to go from here, Jim?
Well, anyway, yeah, half the population of Mexico is in the United States, and but the population growth is the problem. And there's still this belief that if you have babies, you have more chance of staying here than if you don't. And so that, unfortunately, large portions of our current population are because of welfare, paying mothers to have babies. The more babies you have, the more money you get. So
right.
Our current population is, from 30 years ago, was highly dependent on that.
Right. Well, it is. People in middle-class white America don't have a clue what goes on in the inner city. I'm going to follow up on this, Jim. The girlfriend of a friend of mine, and we're talking 1980, she worked in food service for a high school in Metro St. Louis, one of the suburban high schools, which was predominantly African-American, 99% African-American. And they prepared 300 meals a day for the children of the high school students. Get that? 300 meals a day for the children of the high school students.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Yeah.
So, I didn't know anybody in high school that had a baby. When I was nobody. The few girls, there was one girl got pregnant, and she left under bad circumstances because of the embarrassment to the family. But that was it. There was nobody in my high school had any children they were bringing to school and being fed. But now it's routine in the city schools, in the inner city schools, and I'm sure many suburban schools. It's out of control. Absolutely out of control. We got high school students, and they have to be 3 years old, by the way, Jim. The children of the high school students have to be 3 years old before they're allowed in the high school daycare.
Wow. Yeah, that's if you go to third world countries, you're hard pressed to find a 15-year-old girl without a baby. That's when it starts, and it's like that's normal. Okay, well, in a lot of cases, they live at home. The baby, as it grows up, has food. In most cases, if the father is there, they don't work, and they simply live off what's available. Very small amount. And the kids, in a lot of cases, don't have consistent schooling, and then the cycle repeats. So you have 2 generations in 25 years you have grandmas who are 32 years old. And then as the medical, in most of these places, the medical conditions are such that, it used to be in Mexico that 50% of the children were dead by age 3. And so having that many children, if you had 5 children, maybe 2 survived.
Right.
Now all 5 survive.
Uh-huh. So
and especially if they're in the United States.
Right, and that's due largely to access to clean water, drinking water, because that kills most children all over the planet is not having access to clean drinking water, and a general raising of sanitation standards, I would think, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, but it's mainly water is really number one, like you say, and but minimal conditions, and a kid can be raised in minimal conditions. What's going to happen with those kids? What are they going to do? When I go places, people are always, "Oh, can you help me get into the United States?" And it's like, well, no, I can't. You can help yourself potentially, but the first thing you have to do is show people that you want to. You have to learn English. You have to study it. If you come and ask questions showing that you've done something, then I'll answer questions. But 99 times out of 100, no. I'd say 9,999 times out of 10,000, they don't do anything. They just expect that someone will bring them and they will, like a friend of mine says, the couch there is as comfortable as the couch here. And that's the problem. They just think that they're going to do the same thing. They can do nothing and survive, and so that's what they do. It's an unfortunate pattern, but that's what continues. So that's what you're dealing with.
It's pretty dismal. And will not. Yeah.
But the worldwide population, unfortunately, that's what's going on.
Will not have a good end, will it, Jim?
No, but the United States has a hidden problem. It's not visible yet. It'll be visible in another 5. Certainly within 10 years, it'll be extremely visible. And that's the problem. When you have 60 to 100 million people growing up with no education, no ability to do anything, and in an economy that's already strained, with an economy that's already lacking in resources. Yeah.
Well, here's our break. The call number is 800-313-9443. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 20th of September, visiting with Professor James McCanny. His website's linked to my links page at thelibertyman.com. Jim, you've got 2 weekly radio shows. Let people know how they can listen live and the archives, if you would, please, sir.
Yeah, thanks, John. It's every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Central Time, WWCR in Nashville, Tennessee, the James McCanny Science Hour at the Crossroads. And that's the live airing of my commercial-free show. Then it re-airs Friday night 10 p.m. and then Saturday morning 3 a.m. from WTWW. Then it re-airs on satellites, Eastern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere on Saturday. So all the ways to listen on my webpage, jmccsci.com, including the archives. And, John, due to my a couple issues, I had not gotten last week's show posted yet. The week before I did live, there was no archive because I was literally did it driving through Atlanta, escaping from Florida.
Right.
So anyway, I just want to tell people that probably shortly after this show, I'll have the last week's show posted. And then this week I should be back to normal with the web page updating, etc. But then the paid cast, $3.95 a month, and every week an extra episode. This week, again, I'll be dealing with the Science of the Cobran series.
All right. Okay. You have any new books about to be published, Jim?
Yeah. Due to my kind of the upheaval in my life here, due to this Florida thing, I have not gotten that. So anyway, that's something that the next time I get some time, I'll be finishing that, putting the polishing touches on it. But it was going to be released probably about a month ago now. But I want this to be very, very well done when it goes out. So real monumental piece, really complicated piece. So anyway, that's still not ready to be released.
Okay, well, I'm sure you'll let us know when it's time, and we're all looking forward to that. It's great to get your books and read them, Jim, and you've if you continue to have them in the same format where they're the same size, that everything kind of matches up on the shelf of the library.
Yeah, well, now I'm mainly doing ebooks because of the cost and all the other related expense of actually publishing hardcover books. And this one would have to be in color, and so that makes it much, much more expensive, really prohibitive for me. If you're a CIA-supported webpage that copies my work, you can do things like that.
Right.
They can have it in hardcover and, really, really nice, and even sell it on Amazon. So, but my books, unfortunately, I do all of that myself, and so color makes it prohibitive for me. So anyway, this will be out in ebook format only, at least the first round.
Okay. All right. That's good. Okay. Well, what other issues are weighing on your heart this morning, Jim?
Well, just wanted to talk a little about Hurricane Maria.
Let's do that.
And the follow-up of Hurricane Irma. If you look at the world weather map, there's nothing going on in the entire world. It's a very calm weather world, let's say, except for two hurricanes, one that's about to pummel someplace in the Northeast, Hurricane Jose, which has had a most interesting life. It did a loop-de-loop down in the lower Atlantic off of the east coast of Florida. Then it moved up the east coast. Now it did another loop-de-loop, and now we don't know where it's going to go. It's hard to predict a storm that's being manipulated. And Hurricane Maria is doing the work that was missed by Irma, which is the Southern Caribbean and Puerto Rico.
Let's follow up on that after the break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. I've worked with men and women involved in the high-end shelters for years. With the Ozark Survival Homestead, you get things you don't get with the high-end shelters. You get a opportunity to be in the bunker, of course. You also get a home, a 60 by 90 lot. You get your storable food, your livestock, share, your garden, greenhouse share, your seed bank share. One person to have everything they need, right at $25,000. For a family of three, $37,000. You really need to check this out. It's very unique. At my website, you'll see the Ozark Survival Homesteads on the left side of my homepage. Go there, read that one page, fill out the form with your name, your email address, and your telephone number, and I will forward that to the guys and gals at the Ozark Survival Homesteads. Check it out. You'll be very glad you did. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion on my show from now until August. If you mail me a postcard, you may get the opportunity to buy an energy cleaner for $70 off retail. $200 of the purchase price goes to Republic Broadcasting. We have a drawing for this promotion every other Thursday. The details are at my website. Just click on the orange sticker on the right side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. Thank you very much for listening, and hope you can get those postcards in. Okay, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 20th of September. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Our project, it is truly our project of myself and all you listeners, of locating images of continents with new coastlines, continues to move forward. If you have a hobby of spending time watching television shows and movies, keep a sharp eye out for those images of continents with new coastlines. If you find one, get that image to me, and as a thank you, you get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs. It's a fun project. We found images going back to the mid-1950s on television shows and movies. 1954 is the oldest film we found so far. So keep those images coming. Also at my website, of course, are energy cleaners. I sell energy cleaners. It's my home business. If you buy an energy cleaner, I'm the guy that packs them up and ships them. I'm shipping out 2 today. Yesterday I sent 2 to Australia. Mattress pads, that's also my home business. I reconfigure the mattress pads to make them conform and compatible with the energy cleaner. I pack those up and ship those also. The energy cleaner is only $285. If you have arthritis pain, it'll probably work. Joint pain, back pain, yep, probably work there also. Not getting a great night's sleep? Oh, probably help you there. I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. I do take PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online. PayPal, if you live in the United States, now takes payments if you need to spread out that dollar amount over a few months. And, of course, I take checks. If you want to mail a check, mail it to my address at thelibertyman.com. Toll-free hour line, 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Professor James McCanny. His website's linked on my links page at thelibertyman.com. Jim, before the break, we were talking about Hurricane Maria. The current prediction is it for it to smack these islands and then go harmlessly out into the ocean. You don't share that opinion, I believe.
Well, I don't know where it's going after it goes over Puerto Rico, which it is doing right now. It has sustained winds, 145 miles an hour. It's a major damaging hurricane. I was in Puerto Rico in 1975 and was visiting and experienced a hurricane that went 90 miles offshore. So the winds were severe. But what did the damage was the water, the rain. So this storm is going to have major destructive impact on all of Puerto Rico. And the rain is such that it's the lava mountains that are just going to erode. It's like mud when it gets wet. It's like slippery mud. And this is there's going to be a lot of mudslides, a lot of damage to housing, etc. So this is going to really, in all manners of speaking, it's going to destroy Puerto Rico. Hurricane Irma missed Puerto Rico. It was like they guided it north of Puerto Rico. Then it came back south, and off of its predicted line, it went way around Puerto Rico. There was little to no damage at all from Hurricane Irma in Puerto Rico. This storm is coming through the southern Caribbean islands down to Dominique and south. So it's picking up the Caribbean islands that Irma missed and then hitting Puerto Rico and then swinging north. So this is like, why are they doing this? Why is this a target?
Right.
That's all I can tell you. The original prediction for Maria was that it would come to Florida, but it does not appear that that's going to happen unless there's some kind of change of trajectory, let's put it that way, because it is, these are military weapons. This is weather bombing. There's no reason, right now the KP index and all the solar conditions and all the earth conditions are at an absolute minimum. There's no physical system, energy system, that is there to drive these storms, including Harvey, including Irma, and now Maria and Jose. So these storms are manipulated, and why they're doing this, I don't know. I can't answer that.
Okay. All right. Well, the storm will play out over the next few days, and we will see what we shall see. And hopefully there'll be, if it does hit the U.S. mainland, there'll be enough warning for people to make proper preparations and or evacuate.
It would be, well, the current path would bring it north, but it's, I don't make predictions on manipulated storms. It's
okay.
Impossible.
Exactly. All right. If you've got a question or comment for Professor McKinney, give us a call at 800-313-9443. I got an off-air comment question, Jim, about the apparent lack of aftershocks following the recent earthquake near Mexico City. Any follow-up on it?
Very interesting. A very interesting question. Excuse me, I sneezed off air. I muted. So, but a very interesting question. Very interesting question, because something of that magnitude should have aftershocks, starting with at least 20 minutes, and then spacing out more with time. But yeah, that's a very good question.
It is. Well, yes. That's not normal, is it?
No. In the USGS, after it happened, I looked up on USGS, and they had it posted there. And oddly enough, they had it relative. It was pretty near Pueblo, which is a small city south of Mexico City. But they had it relative to some town called Rebozo or something. And you typically name it with the nearest major city, not some little town, with one gas station. So I thought that was strange also.
Right. Yeah.
But instead of saying 70 miles south of Mexico City, which Mexico City itself is, 30 to 40 miles of that 70. And so, it really was very close to Mexico City.
Right, basically a far suburb, it might be an accurate statement.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because I know 70 miles from any major city, you're still would be considered the far suburbs in most cases these days in the United States anyway.
Yeah, well, Mexico City is somewhat unique that it's built in a bowl of an ancient extinct supervolcano. And when the Aztecs lived there, it actually had a lake there. It still had the lake, and they built causeways and a lot of the pyramid structures. And that later since was filled in, and then what's there now was built. It was drained, etc. But I lived in the southwest corner of this bowl, and I saw every morning the sunrise coming up over the Iztaccíhuatl and Popocatépetl from my apartment window.
Right.
But it grows up into the mountains, and then it's kind of like it can't grow out of there. But it's probably good 50 miles across.
My goodness. Well, I've never been to Mexico City and don't have any particular desire or intention to do so, but it sounds like quite the sprawling city.
Oh yeah, it's quite the place. The wealth on one end and the poverty on the other, and everything in between. It's amazing, interesting place.
I'm sure it is. Well, I've been told, Jim, that there's about 20 families that run Mexico and have done so for basically more than 2 centuries, like it's a private club.
Yeah, that's true. And what I did there is I taught the kids of those people. That was my job. And so I went to Mexico looking for adventure when I was young. And so that's what I did for my living. And so I was up in the Las Palmas in the houses and, tutoring the kids and meeting the people. I met the parents and, everybody had maid service.
Sure.
But I lived with, I had my own place, of course, but I traveled all the time. I spent my entire time there traveling and going to archaeological sites and to the East Coast, to the West Coast, to the North and the South, and all over. So I was very familiar with Mexico. But back then it was kind of like the Old West. Now it's a seriously dangerous place to be.
Which part is seriously dangerous?
The tourist areas allegedly are okay. They try and keep the noise down around, Cancun and other places. But I've been on a radio show with Alberto Ruiz, and he's a native of Mexico, lived there. His dad was an archaeologist who I knew when I was there. But he lives there, but it's dangerous all over. If you're out in the country, it's dangerous. There was a film crew, they're filming, it's a major series on television now. It's called, they've been dealing with South American drug trafficking and things like that is the theme. I haven't seen it myself. I don't watch TV, but people have told me about this. But they sent some scouts to Mexico to film next year's series on Mexico and drug trafficking, and the scout was killed. They found out who he was, what he was doing, and they killed him because they don't want cameras and because it's currently going on in Mexico. Colombia and Ecuador have cleaned up their drug problem, and Peru. It's pretty much non-existent down there now, but it's all moved to Mexico.
Jim, we got a couple of callers here. First we go to Fred in Michigan. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning, Don and Jim. I'm haunted by the memory of the perfect storm of Halloween '91. And I know, Jim, you said in the past that was a naturally occurring event due to the necessary preconditions. And then I recall you stating that you were, I don't know if you were a project engineer involved with HARP or HARP-related technology, and you mentioned space-based laser.
I did not work on HARP or have anything to do with it. What I did is I worked independently, and I developed all of the theoretical work for the functioning of storms from ionospheric electrical currents, tornadoes, cyclones, including hurricanes. And that work I did in conjunction with some Russian scientists, nobody in the U.S.
Okay. This technology, Jim, could it not be utilized to circumvent any kind of a big-time hurricane, typhoon, tornado event?
Well, that's what we developed this for, was to take these storms and move them out of harm's way. to drag them up into the middle of the Atlantic where they had no power source and let them spin off and die. That's what this was originally designed for. That's why it was given to the U.S. military. And then we saw them in the early 2000s putting up these big laser satellites. And that was very obvious. The Russian scientists went to the UN to demand a treaty, an international treaty on weather modification, and the United States refused to sign it. So that's where we get up to today. That's all of the storms like Katrina and the whole series of storms that came after that.
Yeah, Jim, now that treaty pursuit of Russia at the UN, what year was that?
Started in around 2000 and 2001. Okay. It was in that time frame.
Well, Trump wants to make America great, right? So let's set out, all of us who can, to raise awareness that we need to terminate the United Nations. And I don't see any purpose in DARPA. I don't see any purpose in NASA, EPA, Department of Energy, et cetera, FedRes, and all the same entities that direct activities at those agencies that I guarantee you are intimately complicit in all of this technology being.
Trump made big strides already. He took away about 35% of EPA's funding, and he cleaned house on people that were pushing the global climate change narrative. I don't know if you know this, but he, under fanfare, signed the NASA budget for this year, and it was a special bill in which this year NASA got 100% funding except for some Europa probe that was going to put a spacecraft into the oceans underneath the ice on the moon Europa. I believe that was the one. But anyway, he canceled that. But other than that, NASA got 100% funding, but they have to phase out and become financially independent in 7 years before the end of his would-be second term. So basically, he's canceled NASA, and they're too stupid to understand that, and they're sitting back getting 100% funding this year. But I don't think they realize that they're, and they cannot become independent. They have no product. They have no product that anybody would buy.
What have they given us, Jim? I remember they gave us Velcro, I guess, and microwave ovens, and now we have all these marvelous microwave beam weapons called smartphones, right? And portable, 2.5.
All of that and more would have happened without NASA. NASA is a smokescreen. NASA's job, the visible NASA, is to create a space program that's tremendously expensive, doesn't do anything, and creates a visible facade that something big is happening in space. They've got probably 12, 14 years of mileage out of those two little Tinker Toy things driving around Mars, and there's a lot more going on Mars. So all they are is a smoke screen, and that's all they've ever been.
Hold that thought. Okay. Hold that thought. We got a break. We have another caller on hold. Thank you for the call. We'll be back after the break. Stay tuned. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 20th of September. Visiting with Professor James McCanney. His website's linked to my links page at thelibertyman.com. Next caller is Glenn in Philadelphia. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Jim. Sounds like you're pretty familiar with the lay of the land down there in Mexico, Jim. were you aware that Popo is erupting now?
Actually not. I wouldn't doubt it, though, is that since the earthquake? I was not aware of that.
Yeah, since the earthquake, Popo has started erupting. So
there should be some webcams. There used to be.
Yeah, there are. I saw some pictures of it this morning. It's quite a plume starting to come off it there. So, which is I guess helps relieve some of that pressure going on underground. I'm just kind of I'm kind of concerned because we had the 8.1 down further south near Chiapas, and now this one, south of Mexico City. And then I'm just wondering, is there any? I'm not hearing anybody saying about potential for this possibly triggering anything up on the San Andreas or anything. But there's been a lot of unusual earthquake activity lately. There was 4.0 in Kaneohe, Hawaii. And then just last night, overnight, there was an earth 5-something in New Zealand, and recently there was another one in China. So it does seem like there's a little bit of shaking and rattling going on here.
I'm just looking right now at Popo, the webcam, and it's steaming. Although but since the earthquake, that's not a good sign. The whole time I was there, it was pretty quiet. In fact, we never saw any activity. But I've been there a lot of times since when it's been somewhat active. It has had some lava flows. But, this is certainly something to watch out for if you live in Mexico City.
Right, exactly. We might have a little bit of a hurricane activity from Maria here, depending on how that all shapes up into next week sometime. I'm here in the suburbs of Philadelphia, so we might catch ourselves some wind and rain from that, depending on what happens there. But I wanted to mention hear your feedback about the hike surrounding the 23rd. I had said to John yesterday that I would predict that 150,000 people are going to die worldwide on the 23rd. And John caught me on that because that's approximately how many people die worldwide every day. So
you could get some good alarmism out of that.
Oh yeah.
I use that to yank people's chains on blog forums and stuff, and then refer them to the Census Bureau statistics, and then to it's food for thought. But anyway, anything you might have to say about the 23rd would be appreciated. I'll go ahead and drop off here. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Well,
I'm not sure Glenn was listening the first part of the hour.
Right.
Jim, if you want to hold over the second hour, you're certainly welcome to.
John, I'm going to make a comment tomorrow about the Cassini mission on my radio show, but I probably should run here. I got a busy day.
Okay. Well, do what you got to do.
But I'll talk to you offline also.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Top of the hour break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Wednesday, the 20th of September. Prep tip of the day, I want you all to check your ammunition supply. Is it properly stored? Properly stored means in a cool, dry, secure area. Do you have enough? Well, there's different kinds of ammunition for different purposes, especially when it comes to shotguns, but that's true of all calibers, different kinds of ammunition for different purposes. Make sure you've got enough of each kind to meet the needs that you need to meet. Best place I've found to buy ammunition is wikiarms.com. That's Whiskey India Kilo India wikiarms.com. I also found out just this morning they have a number of different forums on different firearms, including my favorite firearm, the Rifleman's Rifle, the M14. A lot of fun to read those forums and maybe even participate. Okay, this hour I want to talk about our project. This is our project. If you're familiar with this, you are. That's great. If you're not, because you're a new listener, you're going to find out. John Moore has a project he's doing, and it involves all the listeners. And the project is to locate images in movies and television shows, images of continents with new coastlines. So let's start from the beginning. This goes back about, 2.5, 3 years ago. One of my listeners found the first image. It was from the film The Godfather, 1972. The Godfather is visiting a high-level Vatican official in the Vatican. This is a room more than 1,000 years old with 20-foot ceilings, and there's murals on the wall showing maps of the world. They're not the maps that we know now. They're altered maps. So we posted on my website. It was up, it was down, it's back up now. And didn't think too much about it for several years. And then January this year, another listener found another image. This is what opened the floodgates right here. The television show Highway Patrol, 1957. Now, what I've come to realize is that most of the time, there's some exceptions, but most of the time we're finding these images in the films and TV shows that were incredibly popular. Now, 1957, I would have been 10 years old, and I did, in fact, watch many episodes of Highway Patrol with Broderick Crawford. It was black and white. 1957, the entire population of the United States of America had their choice any given evening or day of watching 3 different television shows. That was it. There was 3 channels: ABC, CBS, and NBC. That was it. Now, Highway Patrol was top of the heap when it came to that time slot. You did not want to put up anything of any consequence against Highway Patrol because it was going to be a loser. So that image, and I'm going to click on it here. The episode is titled Dead Hunter. Crawford is in the office of a petroleum executive talking about the homicide. This map, everything's black and white, of course. They got Venetian blinds, shining light on the wall through the Venetian blinds. Broderick Crawford's forehead is right about the California-Oregon state line there. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the Navy map. There's no doubt about it. That is the Navy map. It doesn't quite go, the inland sea doesn't go quite all the way up to Lake Michigan, which we know it would now, but otherwise, that's the Navy map. It's so close to what's on my DVD, Global Warming, what the government's telling you, that it's scary. So that opened the floodgates, like I say. And once we got this posted on my website, and I started talking about it, people started paying attention to other movies and TV shows. Let's go down the list here. Superman and Lex Luthor. Then we go to Hunger Games, incredibly popular film. Next, A Beautiful Mind. Then we go to Superman Returns. The next one's kind of special because it repeats. NCIS, Navy Criminal Investigation Service. Very popular TV show. Millions of Americans watch every episode. There is a character called the Director. The Director has a very nice wood-paneled office. On the wall facing the audience is now it's had different frames. It was first initially a rather plain Jane frame. Now it's a nice gold frame image of North America. It's got even got its own light illuminating it. So that's how special it is. Now, because of the nature of television cameras and what they can focus on at different distances, we have not yet got a crystal clear, sharp image from NCIS. We're still waiting for that. But the images we do have are clear enough to show that there's no Florida on this image. Florida's gone. I apologize for it being out of focus, but that's the nature of this particular image. If you find a nice crystal clear sharp one from NCIS, get that to me, and you also, because it's been repeated many times, that image. You'll get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs, and that's true of any new image. If you find a new image on a television show or a movie showing any continent with new coastlines, different coastlines, get that image to me. You get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs. Moving down the line, we go to one of the older ones, Captain Midnight. This was a very popular television show. I believe it was a Saturday morning TV show for children. It was definitely a children's show. And I think the sponsor was Ovaltine, if I remember correctly, which is a chocolate powder you mix with milk. Then we go to Elysium, and this shows the African continent with different coastlines. Next, kind of a surprise, Dancing with the Stars. It's rather stylized, but you can see that the stylized continents on those images are different than what we would expect to see. Next image is the only poster we have. This is a poster inside a Japanese restaurant in Austin, Texas. And you'll see the continents have different coastlines there. Next image is a movie, Tyler Perry's A Medea Christmas. Now, this is one of the sharper images, leaving no doubt. This is a classroom scene. These are what appear to be American children. I would say around 5th grade, just guessing. I might be off by a year or so. And on the wall, behind the children, it says Relief of the Ocean Floor. So it's a map. And it's sharp enough and in focus enough that you can blow it up. So let's blow this thing up a little bit here and see what we got. Scroll down a little bit. And, it looks like Florida's gone. Much of the East Coast is gone. I would say that part of Europe is underwater. Possibly part of Italy is mostly gone. Baja California is gone. And so forth. Interesting image. It's supposedly a relief map of the ocean floor. And these children do not look happy. I don't know what's going on in this movie, but they look either bored or apprehensive or both. And that's I don't know. I haven't watched the movie, so I don't have a clue what it's about. Okay, the Miami Story. This is the oldest film we've found so far. 1954. It's a B-grade detective murder mystery kind of thing about crime in Miami, Florida. And let's click on this image. I haven't looked at this one for a while. And oops, wrong image. Miami Story is this one. It's pretty much identical to the map that's, it is the Navy map, first of all. Identical to the one that was published or broadcast 3 years later with Broderick Crawford. Showing more detail, by the way. But it is the Navy map, and it shows East Coast underwater and inland sea, an inland sea on the West Coast, parts of Baja California underwater, and so forth. Okay. Discovery Series broadcast August 8th. Let's look at one of these images. Oh yes, this is great. This is a TV show about FBI agents trying to find the Unabomber. And so you got these 3 FBI agents in a conference room, and they're reviewing evidence about the Unabomber. And we got 3 different versions of this image, and one of them, it's large enough, and it's sharp enough and clear enough that you can see, once again, it's a Navy map. Now, what a difference 60 years can make, because in this map, the inland sea goes all the way up to Lake Michigan. Basically, Illinois is gone. It's just finished in this particular map. Very well done. It's in color, by the way, because everything these days is in color, of course. And going back, we've got the most recent one, just a couple of weeks ago. We're at 4 weeks now, The name of the TV show is Louisiana Flip and Move. It's a television show about people buying homes, fixing them up, and selling them. Broadcast Friday, August 19th. And allegedly, this is a map on the wall of somebody's master bedroom. And it's black and white. It looks like it's about 2 by 4 feet. Just guessing here. Black and white. And you can see Central America and most of Mexico is gone. Just underwater. That looks like France and part of Spain. France, Portugal, and Spain are gone. Florida is just a little stub sticking out into the ocean. But Central America and Mexico are underwater. Fascinating. Last but not least, this is a magazine article, and it's Look magazine from July 1952, and it's an article about UFOs, because UFOs were a big deal for a while there back in the early 50s. I think it was basically recent human activity, possibly even German aircraft that was actually going on, but that's a different story. The map is clear. It's a black and white map in Look magazine, 1952, July issue. Article about UFOs. They've got these little discs plastered all over the map where people have seen these objects flying in the sky. And it is the Navy map. It is, in fact, the Navy map. So we've got images going back 65 years to 1952, and as recently as 4 weeks ago. That's a pretty long span for these things to be taking place. Now, a modern motion picture like Hunger Games, A Beautiful Mind, you're looking at tens of millions of dollars. Many tens of millions of dollars that goes into the production of one of these films. Nothing is left to chance. I guarantee you nothing is left to chance. If it's in the image, in front of that camera that's shooting the scene, everything in there is carefully thought out, very well orchestrated, and nothing is left to chance. Now, they do occasionally screw up, and there's people that like to document that and find contrails in a Western film, for example, that took place in the 19th century. That stuff does happen, and I've seen I remember seeing them. I think it was a Hopalong Cassidy episode where there was a contrail in the background when they were shooting this thing in Southern California. But for the most part, 99% of the time, everything that's in a television show or a movie is very carefully orchestrated. Nothing's left to chance. These maps are in there by design. It takes a lot of juice, a lot of power, a lot of authority to get anything in a scene of a movie. So, what's going on here? There's a term called predictive programming. They've been putting these images in our face. Now, for you youngsters out there, Look magazine was probably in somewhere between 1/4 and 1/3 of all the homes in this country at one time, back in the 1950s. Massively popular, Look magazine. Highway Patrol, probably somewhere between 1/3 and half of all the people in the United States watched every episode of Highway Patrol. Hugely popular. Godfather? Good grief. Can you call yourself an American and not have watched The Godfather? And it's almost no adult in this country hasn't seen the Godfather series. Classic, well done movies, by the way. If you haven't seen them, I'm here to tell you that they are worth your time. So predictive programming is what's been taking place, so that in the future, when these events actually do happen, there will be this bit of memory in the back of your brain that you've seen these images before, and you have this expectation in your subconscious that these things will happen. Here's why I tell people. from the moment that doctor held you upside down and smacked your bare butt, everything you've seen, heard, tasted, or touched is part of and in your subconscious. Everything. It's there. Including these images going back to 1952 in major films, in popular television shows, and even in a magazine here and there. Maybe on the poster posted in a restaurant. These images are part of your subconscious. Whether you like it, whether you know it, it doesn't matter. They're there. And the list continues to grow. At this point, I don't even want to speculate on how many of these images are going to be recovered. My friend Professor McCanny, he says, John, why don't you have people look at movies from the 40s and 30s, especially science fiction movies from the 30s and 40s. That might be productive. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 20th of September. I talk to a lot of people. Being a radio talk show host, I have contacts all over the planet, literally all over the planet, especially the English-speaking world, but also parts of Europe. As many of you know, I was awarded the Prague Peace Prize towards the end of July. I went to Prague to receive that prize and give a presentation there. We're working on getting a DVD worked up out of that presentation, by the way. It's going to be a while before that happens. But people are always searching for what's going to happen next. And we need to be aware of what's already happened. That's what I want to talk about for a little bit here. What's already happened. And it's a provable fact that on June 12th, 2010, the Gulf Stream stopped. It is provable scientifically, by the way. A quick and easy way to see this for yourself, at least initially, is to go on my website and click on the section that, let's see where that is here. Current Navy map. It says the Gulf Stream has stopped, current Navy map. Now, that's on the right side, right under free downloads. Every 24 hours, the United States Navy publishes a brand new map posted on their website, the Navy website, showing ocean surface temperatures. And they show that by colors. The reds and yellows are the warmer colors. The blues and purples are the colder colors. And you can see the Gulf Stream coming up out of this hurricane. Of course, may have some impact on that. But normally you see the Gulf Stream coming up the east coast of Florida, past Georgia, past South Carolina, gets to about Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, starts going east by northeast, which is done for more centuries than we know. In fact, Benjamin Franklin is the person who gave the name the Gulf Stream to the Gulf Stream. The scientists call it the North Atlantic Thermohaline Conveyor. Well, you can see it goes out towards England, towards the British Isles, and goes out 200 or 300 miles and does a little loop-to-loop and ends, just peters out. Where it always used to go all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to warm up the British Isles, and it would split, some going south towards the coast of France, the rest of it going north to warm up the Scandinavia. Well, it doesn't do that anymore. It stopped. Now, I was very fortunate to be introduced to a scientist who works exclusively on the Gulf Stream, and those two interviews are archived at my website, and you can listen to them where it's on the left side where it says the Gulf Stream has stopped, radio interview 1, radio interview 2. Now, at the time I was doing a weekly appearance, actually it was bi-weekly, every Monday and every Friday, with Dr. Bill Deagle on Genesis Communications, the third hour on Friday every week, and also on Monday for an hour. But regardless, we have the two archives there, and you can listen to Dr. Zangari. Now, he's Italian. He doesn't speak excellent English, but he speaks okay English, and you can understand him. Dr. Zangari was working, and probably still is working, with a team of scientists in Europe and in the United States on nothing but the Gulf Stream. That's all they do. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. That's it. Or 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So in the first interview, Dr. Zangari says the following: he believes the Gulf Stream has stopped. They're not sure. They need to recheck their calculations. The second interview, he did, in fact, verify that on June 12th, 2010, the Gulf Stream stopped. Now, by that point, I'd been studying the Gulf Stream for a good 6 years, beginning in 2004. And as far back as 2004, I knew the Gulf Stream was at risk. And I knew at that time that somewhere between it had lost about 1/3 to 1/2 its mass and velocity. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. I've worked with men and women involved in the high-end shelters for years. With the Ozark Survival Homesteads, you get things you don't get with the high-end shelters. You get a opportunity to be in the bunker, of course. You also get a home, a 60 by 90 lot. You get your storable food, your livestock share, your garden, greenhouse share, your seed bank share. One person to have everything they need, right at $25,000. For a family of 3, $37,000. You really need to check this out. It's very unique. At my website, you'll see the Ozark Survival Homesteads on the left side of my homepage. Go there, read that one page, fill out the form with your name, your email address, and your telephone number, and I will forward that to the guys and gals at the Ozark Survival Homesteads. Check it out. You'll be very glad you did. Thank you very much. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 20th of September. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Under free downloads, you'll find some interesting things there, things you may not know even exist, things that will help you. A couple of books. One is The Art of War by General Sun Tzu, a book older than the Christian Bible. required reading in pretty much all military academies, sold in the business book section of most bookstores. The Art of War by General Sun Tzu. Also, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. A great book that will help you gain the clarity, gain the focus that you need to achieve any goal that you want to achieve, published in the mid-1960s. Great book. You also might want to check out Matrix 3, Volume 2. It's a 1,010-page book. It's a reference manual is what it is. And let's see if I can find it real quick here. Just click on my website. Go down to, let's see, free downloads. And where is free downloads? Here we go. Nope, that's links. Free downloads. It's always fun to try to do this. There we go, right next below contact. Free downloads. And Matrix 3, Volume 2. And I want to read the subtitle for you here real quick. The psychosocial, chemical, biological, and electromagnetic manipulation of human consciousness. I'm going to read this again slowly. The psychosocial, chemical, biological, and electromagnetic manipulation of human consciousness. Matrix 3, Volume 2, 1,010 pages. Also, my website, of course, on energy cleaners. It's my home business. If you order an energy cleaner or a mattress pad, I'm the guy that fulfills the orders, packs them up, and gets them to the little country post office at Cherryville, Missouri, where there's never a waiting line. And they serve lunch right outside the door of the post office there. It's all inside the little country store at Cherryville. If you have arthritis pain or back pain or joint pain, it will probably help. Not getting a great night's sleep, and probably help there also. I was contacted by a gentleman. He wants to buy 3 of them this morning. I'll be talking to him when the show's over. Only $285 shipping included. You need to check out the energy cleaner and the mattress pads at my website at thelibertyman.com. Keep in mind, I offer for me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. Yes, a 30-day money-back guarantee. I do take PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online. PayPal now takes payments if you live in the United States. You need to spread out that dollar amount over a few months. Toll-free auto line, 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. You can order right at my website at thelibertyman.com or call the toll-free auto line, 800-592-9543. Got a caller on hold here. We got David in Prattville, Alabama. Good morning, David.
How are you, Mr. Moore?
Really good. What's on your mind, sir?
You were talking about predictive programming, and it just brought to mind, and I just wanted to throw my 2 cents worth in. I have a VHS copy of The Water Boy with Adam Sandler, and at the very beginning of it, there is a preview of some shows and movies, and there was a preview of a show called Wasteland. I don't know if it even was. I never saw an episode, but at the very end of the preview, they showed the Twin Towers with the words Wasteland written across the front. And Armageddon, in the movie Armageddon, after the first meteor shower, they do a panoramic view of Lower Manhattan, and they show one of the Twin Towers with kind of like toward the top knocked off and everything. And it just looks so eerily familiar to that day we'll never forget. So, right. I just want to throw my, when you talk about predictive programming, I'm right on board with you.
Right. So, right. Well, the Twins, as soon as they were built, they were featured in any film that featured New York City as something distinctive in the skyline. After the Twin Towers came down in 2001, the films went back to the Empire State Building as a distinctive landmark for New York City films. But you're right. Those are very interesting images.
It's amazing that it's called the Empire. I mean, these people, they're incredible. I mean, I'm so glad I live out in the sticks now. And not that that'll probably matter much, but because when you talk about the Navy map, I think my area is pretty much, I don't know what the cutoff elevation level is. I'm probably not high enough. So here's the hope.
600 feet is a bare minimum. I'd like to be a little bit higher than that, but 600 is a bare minimum. 900 would be even better. Most of Alabama will be underwater, according to the Navy.
Yes, sir. And I'm thinking about your high-end shelters, and I'm thinking, $25,000. That was actually cheaper than what I just bought here. So
that's actually not high-end. The high-end shelters is not what I'm involved with anymore. This is pretty working class level. About half the cost of a new Mustang. So it's not really high-end.
Well, Mustang doesn't do me any good. I'm a pickup man because anyhow.
What was a new pickup cost, David?
Yeah, too much, and I bought one that was 10 years old.
Right, there you go.
But no, seriously, I checked out your stuff about the Ozarks and everything like that, and grit's gonna hit the fan. And to tell you the truth, Mr. Moore, I'm kind of hoping that Jesus comes back soon, and that's just me talking because I'm really sick and tired of the elites passing laws from which they exempt themselves, and I'm just tired of it. Yeah, and there's going to be a powder keg exploding pretty soon, but that's another topic altogether. But anyhow, that's what I called about was that predictive programming. And
okay.
So,
well, thank you. Don't be a stranger, Dave. We appreciate the call.
Not a problem, sir. Have a good one.
Okay. All right. Call number is 800-313-9443. Yeah, they've been throwing these images in our face now since 1952. Look magazine, 1952. But getting back to what I was saying a moment ago about the Gulf Stream. One of the things that Dr. Zankari told us, and you can listen to the two interviews, by the way, the Gulf Stream used to, past tense, regulate the jet stream. There's actually three jet streams: Northern Hemisphere, Equatorial, and Southern Hemisphere. Of course, most of the people and most of the food is grown in the Northern Hemisphere. The two most important things about weather, not counting or including man-made manipulation, energy from the sun and the jet stream. Those are the two most important things about weather. And of course, weather is affected by the ocean currents as well. The extreme southern part of England, the British Islands, I don't know if they still do, but they did grow bananas there because of the Gulf Stream made it so warm that they could grow bananas in the extreme southern part of the British Isles. That's how warm it was. So the Gulf Stream stopped June 12, 2010. The effects were felt pretty quick. Now, Moscow, for example, Moscow has something very few places have. Moscow has weather records going back more than 1,000 years. And that August, Moscow had the hottest August in more than 1,000 years. Moscow had the hottest August in more than 1,000 years. 6 months later, Moscow had the coldest winter in more than 1,000 years. All directly due to the Gulf Stream having stopped and the jet stream no longer behaving in a predictable fashion. It became, and still is, and will continue to be, quite erratic in its behavior, causing major disruptions in agriculture. Let's look at Syria, for example. You always hear about the Syrian refugees. They're escaping the Syria because of the civil war. Well, and of course many of them are. What they're not talking about publicly is the fact, and it is a provable, easily found fact, by the way, that Syria is having the worst drought in more than 900 years. Do you think the agricultural part of Syria might be totally devastated? Of course it is. You devastate the agricultural part of any country, and you're going to cause major problems. Of course you will. Of course you will. We got a caller on hold here. We got Thomas in New Mexico. Good morning, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I was just going to say, I hope Jesus comes fast because the reason why I'm calling is because I'm not going to make it. from the cell towers. One person that's there's thousands of people affected by the cell towers, the EMF radiation, electromagnetic radiation. And I've got bleeding organs. I've been targeted for many years now, and I'm not going to make it. I have serious heart problems from the cell towers, frequencies, and I'm being bombarded by psychotronic weapons, high-grade military weapons that's used to murder citizens here in the United States for mind control. And they're rolling out the 5G network, and it's going to be more lethal, and there's going to be a serious health crisis globally. And the last thing I'd like to share is I spoke with Virginia Farber several days ago. Virginia lives up in Fort Collins. Virginia's son was murdered at 28 years old from the cell towers. He got Alzheimer's at 28 years old, bleeding in the brain from the cell towers when he was going to college at San Diego University.
I'm familiar with the story.
Same cell tower all the time. Not only did it kill him, it killed a cluster of students under that same cell tower that gave him cancer.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the story. It's a
really
very tragic story. It is very serious. It's very serious, and people need to be aware of that. All right. Go ahead, Thomas.
And I'd just like to share that. It's killing me right now. I'm going through this right now. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay, Thomas, thank you for the call. We appreciate it. I'm familiar with the story. That woman's son had a dorm room very near a powerful cell tower and was probably suffered and died as a consequence. These radiation things are important, and people need to be aware of them and understand how they work, what they can do, what they can't do. It's very important. My wife, Dr. Moore, has made sure that our sleeping quarters have no electrical equipment in the room, nothing within 10 feet of our head. She has a special device that she's bought that helps clean up the electromagnetic energy coming to the cabin. I don't recall what that is, but anything you can do to mitigate and reduce your exposure to these radiations is a good thing. A cell phone puts out a ball of energy about the size of a basketball. Using a headset is a great way, not a wireless. As Bluetooth things are radiating that energy right into your brain, by the way. I spent some time at a truck stop yesterday meeting Tom Berryhill, and majority of these truckers have a Bluetooth device attached to their head, and they're radiating their brain directly is what they're doing. That's not wise. A corded headset that's got a wire is the way to go to get that. You want that cell phone about a foot away from your brain, at least. If it's a foot away from your brain, you're going to be okay. The radiation is not that, it drops off very quickly once it's more than a foot away from your brain, a foot or more. So if you've got a corded headset, you can do that. If you use a cell phone very much, I don't use mine very much. I don't even have cell phone reception here at my home. People send me a text message and wonder why I don't respond very quickly. Well, I have to leave home and go someplace else where there is cell phone coverage before I can even get the text message, let alone respond to it. Okay, we'll take your question, calls, and comments here at Republic Broadcasting at 800-313-9443. There's another free download at my website. This is very important. It's 19 or 20 pages. I refer to it as the scariest 20 pages of nonfiction you may ever read in your life. Real catchy title. And your tax dollars paid for it. The Department of Defense paid these men to research and write on two topics. Here's the catchy title. an abrupt climate change scenario and its implications for United States national security. Published in 2003. I found it in 2004. The researchers, the authors, were given the instructions to research and find out the consequences of two possible future scenarios. One, the Gulf Stream slowing down dramatically. Number two, the Gulf Stream stopping completely. So they did that. And what did they do? They interviewed climatologists, they interviewed oceanographers, they interviewed agricultural experts, political experts, military experts. And they concluded that if the Gulf Stream stopped completely, that there would be mass migrations of tens of millions of people, which, by the way, is taking place right now. There would be war, there would be famine, there would be economic collapse, all of which are either happening or will happen, depending on where you are. It's not the thing with Syria. It's not just Syria, by the way. It's surrounding areas. It's having the worst drought in more than 900 years. If you only focus on refugees because of civil war, that's a temporary. The civil war is a temporary matter that would be present for several years and then gone. The worst drought in more than 900 years, though, is not a temporary matter. We don't know if or when that drought will end. We do know that the Sahara Desert was once a lush, lovely place where people were living in abundance with plenty of water and agriculture and so forth. And the Sahara Desert, by the way, is expanding south, and areas that had been very habitable and had enough water to conduct agriculture, they're becoming part of the desert. So the mass media is not going to focus on or talk about something like the worst drought in more than 900 years in Syria. They're not going to do that. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 20th of September. You really need to read that paper, An Abrupt Climate Change Scenario and Its Implications for United States National Security. This is the open source version. Typically, when the Department of Defense has a paper like this written, there'll be a classified version and an open source version. I don't know if that was done in this case, but typically it is. The open source version that's published on my website is scary enough. It really is. 19, 20 pages. I don't have that page count here in front of me. It's not terribly long. It doesn't need to be terribly long. It lays out what you need to know. And that is our future. With the mailing list I'm on, I get people think they can walk out on their back porch in Florida or Alaska or Nebraska or New York and take a picture of Planet X, and they're all excited about this. They're not taking pictures of Planet X, and they're focusing on the wrong things. When the Gulf Stream stopped, June 12, 2010, that changed everything by itself. Now, there's a film titled The Day After Tomorrow, starring Dennis Quaid, that the main premise of the film is the consequences of the Gulf Stream stopping. Now, that's Hollywood. Everything takes place over a matter of a few weeks because it is Hollywood. Mother Nature doesn't work that way. It takes years for these events to play out, many years. But they are in the process of playing out. They are. You can count on it. And the Gulf Stream's not going to restart. The Gulf Stream stopped because of the reduced salinity of all the oceans. Reduced salinity because of melting freshwater ice in Greenland, melting freshwater ice in the Antarctic. These oceans have to have a certain amount of salinity, salt content, before these currents can do what they've always done. The salt water behaves differently than fresh water. You can have currents in salt water that you cannot have in fresh water. There's still salt in the ocean, obviously, but the reduced salt has stopped the Gulf Stream. And that's reality. That's my reality. It can and should be your reality also if you'll take the time to look into it and determine that what John Moore is saying is actually based on scientific fact. Print out that paper, read it, make it part of your being, because that paper outlines the future of this planet. You don't need Planet X or a pole shift or anything else to change this world very dramatically in very harmful ways. We've already got it right now in the form of the Gulf Stream, having stopped June 12th, 2010. Tomorrow we'll have Tim Spencer goes into surgery tomorrow to have his left leg amputated. He will not be with us. Tom Berryhill will join us at the bottom of the hour. Don Kubley will be with us hour 2, talking about an excellent product, the fiberglass dome homes. They're great. You need to check them out. Friday, Tom will be back with us first hour talking about emergency survival communications. And then hour 2, we'll have Dr. Phil Myers. That's it for the day. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils, now while you can. Your firearms ammunition. Never ever give up your guns. Have a fun, safe, productive day. And God bless America.